Hey everybody, Matt Lawton here on the Astrological Winds channel, and we're going to be looking at our weekly forecast for the week of March 23rd to 29th, which basically the headlines is new moon in Aries at 4 to 5 degrees on Tuesday, tomorrow, and that really is going to dictate much of the week, mainly because Aries, ruled by Mars, we have a very Martian week going on. If you remember last week, I talked about how Mars in Capricorn, very strong, exalted in Capricorn, was going across our triple outer planets that have been sitting in Capricorn this year together, and last year two of them before together. So that's Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto. And remember last week we had Mars conjunct Jupiter on Friday. So things really grew like very like expansively, and in particular we've been using the coronavirus and the effects of that as a great example of seeing how that energy is. But anyway, Mars is like really the ruler of this week for sure, with the new moon in Aries, and it will continue its conjunctions with those three planets. In fact, it conjuncted Pluto very early Monday morning. So that conjunction has already been in effect and is feeling really strongly right at the moment. And when Mars and Pluto get together, it's like superhuman power, like in the sense of like in it for the like long haul, the marathon run, like this is like, having an excessive well of energy that you can distribute on a very even manner and very effectively. So like conjunction, as always, is a good time to get things going. New moon, good time to get things going. Aries energy, good time to get things going. So what do we got? We've got the rule of three right there, at least, actually, and we have Chiron involved also, conjunct the new moon and sun. So when Chiron conjuncts the sun, that's another time that it's a good time to start something new. So we actually have 4 energy signatures this week, the beginning of this week, to get something new going. And Aries is a very subjective energy. It does not allow anything in really to change what it's going to do. Its mind's made up. It's got a direct line, So the Mars-Pluto energy, first of all, is going to like really just get us into what would be an ambitious mode to really take action to further whatever these new projects that we may be working on. And the danger of Mars Pluto is to get power tripped on it, is to like get so subjective. So the thing with Pluto to remember always with Pluto is one of the ways to satisfy Pluto is to make sure you're not doing something just for yourself. And Pluto is really dangerous like that, because it is about power, and you may get some. But like, if you're using it mainly for yourself, you're going to find yourself in a very self-destructive spiral sooner or later. So with Pluto, in order to appease Pluto energy, you really, really need to have the greater good in mind in what your ambition and drive and motivation is. Because Otherwise, if you misuse power, you may be able to get away with it for a long time, but usually the fall is self-destructive. So anyway, very powerful energy, can get out of control, can get violent, can get vindictive, can get into power struggles that lead literally to war, literally to open warfare. So really careful energy of how we play with this. Now, Mars in Capricorn, just like Saturn in Capricorn and just like Pluto in Capricorn, does favor, as I've said before, those in power. Mars in Capricorn is the conqueror, the one who has come in and taken something over and seems impenetrable in being able to be taken down at this point. So you can apply that to like your personal life situations, you can apply that to world situations that are going on right now, and therefore, there is the temptation by those who are in power to use this energy in a forceful way, which could result in violence, destructive type energy. So, and then like last week, like I was talking about too, in relation to the coronavirus even, when you think about Pluto and being the Lord of Death, and Mars is one of the planets that, you just don't want to mess with when you come to health issues. So, fever, things like that, which is part of a virus, can like become deadly under Mars Pluto. So once again, the expansion of that Jupiter energy of the cases of the virus, which we knew was going to happen from the Mars Jupiter. We knew that last week when we talked about that. Now we're going to see, probably death tolls go up, and like the percentages maybe change and shift too of how deadly this can actually be. So Mars Pluto, intense energy, really use it well, and you can drive yourself for a long time forward and can really be helpful to the collective in a very futuristic and long-lasting way. So the new moon in Aries is ruled by Mars, and that's what Mars is up to these days. And like I said, one of the good things about what's going on actually with Mars actually also conjuncting Saturn and all of this happening in Capricorn is it does kind of bring some balance into the Jupiter Pluto stuff, so that like maybe things won't go completely unchecked with their like growth potential. Like certain things will restrict them, and once again, those in power, those in authority have that ability to do that. But once again, like I was saying last week, Mars Saturn obviously is restricting all of us physically, and in this case, most of us at this point are being restricted because of the virus in our homes. So the new moon is at 4 to 5 degrees of Aries, and it is squaring the nodal axis and is conjuncting Chiron. So it's bringing right back in that energy that I mentioned in the monthly for March. That was one of our main energies of the month. Chiron and Aries squaring the nodal axis. So as I've been saying about Chiron and Aries for months now, this to me is about being responsible for our own health, our own healing, our own learning, all that stuff. So here we are, with a new moon in Aries, and Chiron is right there with it. squaring that nodal axis again, that's saying, hey, South Node in Capricorn, the structures you've built in your life, the structures society has built in its life, because the nodes are all about collective group stuff, mainly. Yes, it's about your goals and your talents and stuff too, but really on how they relate to the collective anyway. So South Node Capricorn is like, hey, this worked for a long time and it worked well, but it's not working that well anymore. The system is breaking down. The foundations have cracks in them. So Chiron and Aries has got to take that on and be like, it's time to move forward. It's time to be courageous and brave and move into another place. And that place is the North Node in Cancer. That place in a communal or group level, which is what the North Node is all about, is saying nurturing for all, which is like a home, a hearth, a food, a place that's warm, a place when you're taken care of when you're sick. That is what the North Node in Cancer is requiring from the community, from the group. So that's what Chiron in Aries needs to move towards. But, as I said, the overall theme of Chiron in Aries is having to be responsible for our own health. And once again, using the virus as our example right now, where we can all see this so clearly that we have to be responsible for our own health in this situation. Because there's not enough resources out there that if we all got ill at once, that we'd all be able to be taken care of. It's just a simple equation. So we must do the best that we can and only go to those public resources if it's a crisis situation for ourselves. Otherwise, take preventative care for yourself. Take care of yourself when you are ill. Do the things that are right. And the thing about Moon, when it joins Chiron, though, too, is it makes you super sensitive to your environment. So this is a really good time to notice the things that trigger you emotionally, subconsciously, intuitively, and understand how that's kind of hurting you, so that you can use then the sun, Chiron, and the new moon and the Aries energy and all the conjunction energy to start to approach those things in a different way with this new knowledge and wisdom that Chiron is giving you to learn how to heal for yourself and others too. So, a really interesting thing too about this new moon, besides Chiron being there on the conjunction and then the North Node square, is that none of the traditional 7 other planets are touching this by any kind of aspect. None of those other planets are making an aspect to the new moon. So it's like, okay, this new moon is kind of out there on its own, It's like, once again, showing how we're kind of on our own in this situation. So, this new moon, just remember, with it in Aries, it's a great time to push ahead, to be assertive, to be strong-willed, to do what you feel, what is the right thing for you. But remember, too, that you can easily get into like behavior that others perceive as aggressive, egotistical, selfish, overly subjective, non-receptive. So they, so there's a interesting balance. But that being said, I guess with the timing of many of us being forced to be alone for the most part, that is a really good time to have that Aries energy, because you feel really comfortable with yourself when you're in Aries. People who are Aries have a lot of Aries energy, feel really comfortable within themselves. But there's that danger, for the emotional connection of the Aries moon, there's the danger of starting controversy or a scene or a fight or an argument just to get the emotional connection to the other, even if it's a negative connection. It's kind of like, kids, if you don't give them the positive attention, eventually they'll go for the negative attention. Well, that's basically what Aries will do too. If it's not feeling emotionally satisfied, it'll pick a fight. Basically, it'll pick an argument, it'll pick a dispute in order to make an emotional connection with others, because that's, still reminding Aries that it isn't actually alone, even though, for the most part, it's functioning alone. So we have a lot of courage and bravery available to us. We'll do things we normally might not do when the Aries energy is there. But like when Aries gets overblown, it can also, others will perceive it as like something to be feared. All right, so remember with the new moon too, you got to look up where 4 or 5 degrees is in your chart of Aries, 4 or 5 degrees of Aries in your chart, and that will tell you what house the new moon is falling into in your chart, and then that will tell you where those new starts most likely will be, and this energy will most likely be focused in your life. So like if it's in the 8th house, say, like, it's going to be in areas of shared resources, so that type of thing. All right, and the rest of the week, there's one other really I mentioned last week how Eris was squaring Mars also in the U.S. chart on the equinox chart, and that was causing a lot of chaos too. And so, like, because Aries is squaring Mars, it's also squaring all those other planets in Capricorn too, and so that's obviously not going to help the situation. And this week, Jupiter gets the exact square from Eris on Thursday, but obviously already in effect. If there's ever been a time when complete chaos has been, going on in our society, and remember, Jupiter is a societal planet. It's stuff that we're sharing on together, and then Eris is one of these outer bodies that, is affecting the collective on a very deep level. So she's like the goddess of chaos, and right now you add that with Jupiter and you get what we're kind of getting right now, like complete economic chaos, complete health crisis chaos, those kind of things. So kind of really blowing up in our faces. So that's an exact one this week. And for the 3rd weekend in a row, it might even be 4 weekends in a row now, there's couple really nice aspects working together that normally is just like get together with other people and share info and make connections, and this is going to bring a lot of benefits to everybody. Now, obviously, I've been saying that for 3 weekends, and the situation with the virus has gotten so bad now that everybody's kind of like, no longer able to socialize in a physical sense. So, I can't recommend getting together on a physical sense like that. But this weekend we have Venus trining Jupiter and trining Pluto. So Venus trine Jupiter is basically, from an astrological traditional perspective, is the luckiest aspect you could possibly get in a chart. And it just brings, ultra benefits. And, in this one, we also have Venus in really strong position in Taurus. So, maybe we'll be able to find gifts in very simple things, is what I'm thinking. Like gifts from the Earth. Is a trine in Earth. Jupiter is obviously not happy in Capricorn, but still Venus is very happy, enjoying the earthly pleasures. So, maybe this one is saying, look, there's a lot of other pleasurable things around, just because we don't have our normal pleasure of movies and malls and concerts and dancing and social events and parties and get-togethers. That's been taken from us, but that there is simple pleasures out there to be enjoyed when Venus is in Taurus and getting a trine from Jupiter. And then the trine to Pluto is just, once again, deepening our connections. And maybe, with some of us, this one will actually work, because some of us are quarantined together, as family type units. And Venus trine Pluto just deepens people's connections with one another to really, really, really deep places where trust can be built, where inhibitions can be broken through, where you feel safe to bring up psychological debris that you'd like to help get cleaned out. So all those things are available next weekend with those trines, and would be a really beneficial time to use that energy. All right, I think until next week, this is Matt Lawton on Astrological Winds channel. Hang in there, stay healthy. No matter what you think the cause of the coronavirus is, it doesn't matter. It's a real disease that's really, at least 10 times more deadly than the flu. So please take the precautions that you would normally take. Don't overtax the health system if it's not necessary. If you're not ill, or you're not so ill that you actually need a hospital, take care of yourself. That's what Chiron and Aries wants you to do anyway. You'll learn a lot from it. You'll learn a lot. All right. Would love to do chart work for you. MATTHUE823@gmail.com is my address. Oh, and another thing, people were asking me, what about classes? And definitely can do classes, but need 4 committed, paid students. And we could do probably 8 to 12 week classes, either beginner, moderate, specialized. So if you have a request for that, let me know. If you're interested in that, let me know. It would probably be about $20 a class for each individual. But I would need the commitments to do something like that. But if you have the time, because you're sitting at home, you may be sitting at home for 3 months, and you'd like to learn basics of astrology or deepen it or anything like that, and we can find 3 other people that are committed like you, I'd be more than willing to start up classes again. All right, until next time, stay well. Do all the things that you need to do to keep your system strong. Take care now.